Hello everyone and welcome to the new English RC practice series which has been newly launched by Law Prep Tutorial for you all, and this particular series will be conducted by me and my name is Roshni Rajani. So let's begin with the session without any further ado. So what will be the key takeaways? What's the major reason and what will be your key takeaways from these regular RC practice series? So firstly, I'm pretty sure you must have read all those tips and tricks which are provided in your RC modules and the books that you must have purchased for your preparation. So all those books contain very generic tips, and if you only read those tips, that wouldn't be actually helpful. It will benefit you only when you practically apply that knowledge of solving RC practices. And this daily practice series will help you in practically applying that particular knowledge of solving RC passages in a time bound manner. Now, why am I saying in a time bound manner? Because this will also these practice series, these sheets will be uploaded on your LMS portal and you will have access to those sheets. So before you actually log in and you start my video, just go and check out those sheets and read that particular passage. Time yourself, so that way you'll be able to do it in a time bound manner as well, and it will help you in your speed reading also. That will also keep you make you aware of how many minutes do you take in reading the passage of a particular length or whatever. So it will help you not only in applying the knowledge practically but also help you with speed reading. Thirdly, your major takeaway from one of the major takeaways from this passage, this practice series, will be that you will understand how to actually comprehend a passage which is given to you. So on your day of CLAT, you will be given all those passages will be given from different sources like books and newspaper articles, journal articles and whatnot. So it's really important to understand in what ways, what are the different ways of writing, and how certain sentences, certain simple sentences can also be convoluted and presented in complex manners. So that will come only with practice. So in these daily practice series, I will make sure that I take you through different kinds of all the plethora of sources that are available, and I'll make sure that I make questions from those, so that you understand how to comprehend passages from different fields, like be it science, be it law, be it philosophy, be it sociology, or any other field. So that way it will help you on understanding, comprehending the not only the subject but also different complex sentence structures and etc. So yeah, about that. Then fourth will be, I will be giving you while I solve the passage in front of you while recording this video, I'll be solving the passage. So simultaneously I'll give you tips and tricks along with solving the question. So that way you will get to know how to solve different kinds of questions, and I'll also provide you the basic tips and tricks which are also not generic tips, but there are certain different types of questions like synonym, antonym questions. So I'm sure that you'd be having a basic idea of that, but then there are certain difficult questions. So my next point is also about that in these series we'll be addressing certain difficult questions, those questions which do not appear frequently in your mock tests or regular tests or any sheets that you might be getting. But these questions are those questions which are often difficult. So here I'll address those questions. I'll make sure that if you watch this video, even if you're not solving the sheet, you've at least watched the video, so you are aware of that particular question and you know how to tackle those difficult questions also. Because what happens is, a lot of people can actually solve the easy and the moderate questions, but what makes you different, what gives you the edge over other people, is the difficult question, these questions which do not appear regularly in your mock test. So here I'll make sure that I include in every mock, in every every practice series, I will ensure that I include at least one or two difficult questions, so that you are made aware of how to tackle those questions on the D-Day. Yeah, so that was about your takeaways from this series. That's about it. Now I will begin with it. here are just a few pointers as to how you should be approaching a an RC passage in general. So the first and the foremost thing is you have to read the questions first. Now, why do I say this? I'm pretty sure everybody who has taught you English before, especially RC, must have told you that it is very important to read questions before reading the passage. Because how does it help? When you read the questions, you know what is important, on what line of the passage or on what paragraph question has been asked, and so that way you will be able to segregate the relevant and the irrelevant information. So always when you're reading the passage before reading, if you've already read the questions, so when you are reading the passage, you will, at the back of your mind, there will be something, telling you that okay, this word had also appeared in the question, so this can be important. So you'll subconsciously pay more attention to that particular sentence which has already you've read a question on. So that way it's beneficial to segregate relevant and irrelevant information in the RC passage. And when we say that you have to skim through the passage, that doesn't mean you have to merely read the words. So skimming through the passage also means just segregating relevant and irrelevant information. So that will, it will also help you in reading the passage quickly and only reading the relevant part of it. So reading the questions first is very important. Secondly is reading the passage at a pace where you actually understand it and not merely read it without comprehending anything. This I have observed that a lot of students do this mistake, that they actually start reading, and the focus, what is their focus is that they have to finish the passage in 3 minutes or 4 minutes. They have this idea, this very false idea, I would say, rather, that they have to finish, if it's a short, let's say it's a 500 word passage, they have to finish it in 3 minutes reading it. So their focus is to finish it, but your focus should be to understand it so that you can actually go ahead and answer the questions. Because see, your pace will gradually increase. Increasing your speed in reading, especially in RC, where you have to understand, it's reading comprehension. It's not reading, it's reading comprehension. The emphasis is on the word comprehension. So understanding naturally becomes very important. So, and once they have read the entire passage, and then it hits them that okay, I have read it within the time which I was that was stipulated, which was written in so and so book, that you have to read a 500 word passage in, let's say, 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and you achieved that goal. But what was the purpose of that? What did you actually utilize those 3 minutes? No, you rather wasted it. Now when the question will come, you'll actually go back to the passage and you'll have to refer to that line, and you'll have to again reread and understand that what that line is actually saying. So those 3 minutes are actually a waste of time. So instead of doing that, what you should do is try to understand it and gradually increase your pace. If you try understanding it, your pace will automatically increase gradually. So have patience. We'll have a lot more practice series coming up, and it will come daily. So do not worry about your pace right now. Focus on understanding. Moving on to the next point, which is solve your questions by eliminating. So again, reading comprehension, the elimination method becomes very important in RC passages, because I'll show you this question, this instruction, each set of questions. This actually is from a CLAT sample paper, which was when the pattern was changed. This sample paper was released by the CLAT consortium, and that's what they said. This is actually an instruction which is provided by the official sample paper. So I'll read it out for you. Each set of questions in this section is based on a single passage. Please answer each question on the basis of what is stated or implied in the corresponding passage. In some instances, more than one option may be the answer to the question. In such a case, please choose the option that most accurately and comprehensively answers the question. So here they themselves are admitting that it is a multiple choice question. So it is bound, sometimes it may happen that more than one option, let's say 2 options, may be the correct answer, but you have to eliminate that which one is a better option. So you'll always, it is always the best idea to go by the elimination method. So when you go by the elimination method, you're eliminating the options which you know are definitely incorrect, and then you'll move on to let's say you've come down to 2 options, and then you have to think that okay, this is more comprehensive, it has more data which is given in the passage, and then you'll analyze okay, this is a better option, or it is, if not, if let's say none of the options are fitting in correctly to the answer, but then in that scenario you'll have to go for the least wrong answer. So elimination method will always save you, come what may. So yeah, elimination is very important. Then yeah, the last point for my series will be to time yourself. So like I've already mentioned, you will get the question, the sheet which I'll prepare a day before, or in on that day itself, along with the video you'll get the sheet. So take that sheet and start solving. Just pause the video or whatever, just take the sheet and time yourself and see how many minutes you're taking in, with understanding, with also understanding the passage, right? That way it will help you keep track of your progress, because this series will continue for long and it will be beneficial only if you see your progress. And like I've already mentioned, in the major takeaways from this session will be your speed reading. And how will you understand that you have actually increased your speed? When you'll time yourself. So please, please, please time yourselves, and not only in just reading the passage, but also while solving the questions. So yeah, I hope my instructions were clear, and we'll be beginning with the passage now. So this passage has been taken from the sample set of questions, which was provided by the CLAT consortium last year, not last year, in 2020. So, oh yeah, 2020, last year, yes. So we'll be beginning with it. Like I said, we'll read the questions first. First question is, why does the author say it is possible to over-interpret physical appearances? So we have to keep in mind that the word physical appearances has been used. So physical appearances. Then, which of the following most accurately describes the result of the first genetic work? So we have to again focus on first genetic work done in India, right? Yep. Then idiom, or this expression, to throw up one's hands. Okay. Then what's the next thing? Why, in what context does the author say that it is always a bad idea to ignore the barbarians? So again, we have to focus on barbarians. Then, which of the following is true about the sentence enclosed within one? So we have to also check the sentence which is enclosed within one. Okay, let's start reading the passage. You can pause the video here, check out the sheet and time yourself and read it along with me. Okay, I'll read it. The people of India are also diverse in appearance, providing visual testimony to mixture. A stroll down a street in any Indian city makes it clear how diverse Indians are. The skin shades range from dark to pale. Some people have racial features like Europeans, others closer to Chinese. It is tempting to think that these differences reflect a collision of people who mixed at some point in the past, with different proportions of mixture in different groups living today. So all this from here to here, it is trying to say that people are very diverse in their appearance, and because of that, this supports the fact that people have mixed in the past. Just because their appearances are very diverse, they have mixed in the past. So it's talking about the skin shade, that some people are very dark, some are very light, some look like Europeans, some look like Chinese. So that way, this diversity in appearance makes us think that some collision of peoples must have taken at some point or the other in the past. So past में लोग mix हुए होंगे. That is why this diverse appearance is there in India. Okay, but now but means that the now, it's very important to note but, because after but the entire meaning of the previous sentence will change in the upcoming sentence. So note it. So here in the previous sentences, they are talking about mixture happening in the past which resulted in diverse physical appearances. Now but आ गया है, तो अभी हम ध्यान देंगे इस पे कि but के बाद क्या बोला गया है. But it is also possible to over-interpret physical appearances. Okay, please note there was one question on over-interpreting physical appearances. So we'll mark this. as it is known that appearance can also reflect environment and diet. Okay, so it's clearly saying that अभी तक यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक पे उसने कहा था, the passage was saying that collision of peoples, that is mixture, the genetic mixture of people in the past is the result of diverse appearance, diverse physical appearance, right? But now what is saying that it is always possible to over interpret physical appearances. क्यों हम लोग गलत भी हो सकते हैं physical appearances को मापने में? क्यों? क्योंकि फिजिकल अपीयरेंसेस किससे अफेक्ट हो सकती हैं? एनवायरनमेंट से भी अफेक्ट हो सकती हैं और डाइट से भी अफेक्ट हो सकती हैं. तो यहाँ पे इन दिस पर्टिकुलर सेंटेंस द ऑथर इज इंट्रोड्यूसिंग 2 न्यू फैक्टर्स एज टू व्हाई फिजिकल अपीयरेंसेस आर नॉट ओनली अफेक्टेड बाय जेनेटिक मिक्सचर ऑफ पीपल बट ऑल्सो बाय द एनवायरनमेंट they live in and also the diet, the kind of food they have, right? Understood? I hope the passage was clear, it was understood. So we have already marked this, but when we solve the question we'll come back here just for your reference. But if you read it in such a manner where you understand कि हाँ पहले उसने मिक्सचर्स की बात करी थी, जेनेटिक मिक्सचर की बात करी थी, और अब उसने 2 नए फैक्टर्स इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिए हैं, and the 2 new factors are environment and diet. If you can store that in your temporary memory somewhere while reading this passage, you will not have to come back to the passage and reread it. So I'm just marking it for now. Moving on to the next para. The first genetic work. Okay, next question was on first genetic work, so we'll again read it very deeply. And the first genetic work in India gave seemingly contradictory results. Okay, so the first genetic result gave contradictory results. Researchers studying mitochondrial DNA always passed down from mothers found that the vast majority of mitochondrial DNA in Indians was unique to the subcontinent, and they estimated that the Indian mitochondrial DNA types only shared common ancestry with ones predominant outside South Asia, many tens of thousands of years ago. Okay, so this is a pretty long sentence, and that is why a lot of you might think कि ये क्या लिख दिया इतना लंबा सा. So I will break it down for you. So every time you see a very long passage, जहाँ जहाँ कॉमाज हैं वहाँ पे पॉज करो, मतलब रुको और फिर उसको समझो. So that way it will help you understand the passage, right? The sentence. Okay, so the first genetic work gave seemingly contradictory results. Now researchers जो थे, जो कि mitochondrial DNA पढ़ रहे थे, mitochondrial DNA क्या होता है, जो कि हमेशा मदर से ही पास ऑन किया जाता है. Okay, so this sentence यहाँ तक हमें पता चला कि mitochondrial DNA जो है वो मदर से पास ऑन किया जाता है. Found किसके लिए यूज़ है? रिसर्चर्स के लिए. Researchers found that vast majority of mitochondrial DNA in Indians was unique to the subcontinent. तो मतलब unique to the subcontinent का मतलब है कि वो subcontinent में ही पाया जाता था. यूनिक टू का मतलब कि वो उसी जगह पे पाया जाता है और कहीं नहीं पाया जाता. इट्स वेरी यूनिक टू दिस प्लेस. So the mitochondrial DNA was unique to the subcontinent, and they estimated that the Indian mitochondrial DNA types only shared common ancestry with ones predominant outside South Asia many tens of thousands of years ago. Okay, तो ये यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक में कह रहा है कि और जो इंडियन माइटोकॉन्ड्रियल डीएनए है वो उसी सिर्फ उन्हीं से कॉमन एंसेस्ट्री शेयर करता है जो कि आउटसाइड साउथ एशिया थे टेंस ऑफ थाउजेंड्स ऑफ ईयर्स अगो. तो ये इतना लंबा सा सेंटेंस बेसिकली सिर्फ इतना कहना चाह रहा है कि माइटोकॉन्ड्रियल डीएनए है जो कि मदर्स से ओनली मदर्स से पास ऑन, मतलब सिर्फ विच इज़ ऑलवेज पास्ड. सो इट्स अ वेरी डेफिनेटिव सेंटेंस कि इट इज़ ऑलवेज पास डाउन फ्रॉम मदर्स ओनली. सो दैट इज़ वेरी यूनिक टू द इंडियन सबकॉन्टिनेंट. और जो भी कॉमन था वो दसों हज़ारों सालों पहले, टेंस ऑफ थाउजेंड्स ऑफ ईयर्स अगो, आउटसाइड साउथ एशिया से कॉमन एंसेस्ट्री रखता है. सो कॉमन किसके साथ है? बहुत ही पहले, बहुत ही पुराने ज़माने के साउथ एशिया से कॉमन एंसेस्ट्री रखता है. और अब जो है रिसेंटली वो इज़ वेरी यूनिक टू द सबकॉन्टिनेंट. This suggested that on the maternal line, Indian ancestors had been largely isolated within the subcontinent for a long time. So this line basically summarizes what I just explained in the previous line, that on the maternal lines. Why on the maternal lines? Because mitochondrial DNA is always passed down from mother. So on the maternal lines, the Indian ancestors have been largely isolated, मतलब confined रहे हैं within the subcontinent for a long time. Why a long time? Because जो भी common share किया गया है वो हज़ारों साल पहले share किया गया है, इसलिए long time से अभी, मतलब काफ़ी समय से, हज़ारों सालों से अभी they are isolated, they are confined within the subcontinent. That is why it was used unique to the subcontinent, right? So this line just summarized what I explained you in the previous lines. So yeah, moving on. Without mixing with neighboring populations to the west, east or north. Okay, so they were confined and they did not mix with the neighboring populations. In contrast, a good fraction of Y chromosomes in India passed from father to son. So previously we studied mitochondrial DNA and now we are reading about the Y chromosomes. Y chromosomes which are passed from father to son. So now we are talking about the paternal line. We have already studied about the maternal lines and now we are reading about the paternal line. Showed closer relatedness to West Eurasians, Europeans, Central Asians and Near Easterners, suggesting mixture. तो basically ये इतना कहना चाह रहा है कि फादर के साइड पे बहुत ही ज़्यादा रिलेटेडनेस शो करी है किससे, वेस्ट यूरेशियंस से. तो इससे हमें क्या पता चलता है कि ऑन द पैटर्नल लाइन्स देयर हैज़ बीन मिक्सचर ऑफ पीपल. सो ऑन paternal line there has been mixture, whereas in contrast on the maternal lines they have been largely isolated within the subcontinent. मतलब उनका mixture नहीं हुआ है, without mixing. They on the maternal lines they have not mixed, whereas in contrast on paternal lines they have mixed with West Eurasians. I hope this long and complex passage was this paragraph was clear. And this was what about the first genetic work. So all the first what is the first genetic work talking about? It is basically saying that on maternal lines there was no mixing for a long time. There has been no mixing for a very long time, and on the paternal side there has been mixture. So that's the gist of it. Moving on to the next paragraph. Some historians of India have thrown up their hands in. Okay, thrown up their hands was the next question. What is the meaning of this particular phrase? So even if you don't know, if you already know the meaning of this phrase, then very well, good for you. If you have already read upon idioms and phrases, that's great. If you do not, try to understand the meaning of the phrase from the context of the sentence. Okay, so we'll understand the context. Some historians of India have thrown up their hands and discounted genetic information due to these apparently conflicting findings. So now ये कह रहा है कि historians जो है परेशान, excuse me, historians जो हैं they have परेशान हो गए हैं. They are not considering the genetic information. क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं? Because there are conflicting findings. Because of these conflicting findings, they have give up. Thrown up their hands basically means to give up. And क्यों give up कर दिया है? क्योंकि conflicting suggestions, conflicting findings आ रही हैं. The situation has not been helped by the fact that geneticists do not have formal training in archaeology, anthropology and linguistics, the field that have dominated the study of human prehistory. Again, this is a long sentence, so we'll read it in parts. Okay, so this sentence is saying कि जो geneticists हैं उनकी कोई formal training नहीं है किसमें, archaeology, anthropology and linguistic में, इन तीन चीज़ों में. और ये तीन चीज़ें क्या हैं? Human prehistory की से क्लोजली डोमिनेटेड हैं, मतलब बहुत ही ज़्यादा डोमिनेटेड हैं. इफ़ यू हैव टू स्टडी ह्यूमन प्री हिस्ट्री यू मस्ट स्टडी आर्कियोलॉजी, एंथ्रोपोलॉजी, लिंग्विस्टिक, बिकॉज दिस फील्ड is largely dominated by these three. And geneticists they have not received any formal training in these three particular fields, and that is why and are prone to make elementary mistakes. Because they do not have studied these subjects, they are prone to making these elementary mistakes. Elementary as in very basic, छोटी से छोटी गलतियाँ उनसे हो जाती हैं. Or to be tripped up by known fallacies. Known fallacies, again, it's trying to portray that उनसे basic elementary mistakes हो जाती हैं, and known fallacies, जानी पहचानी हुई गलतियाँ भी वो कर देते हैं when summarizing findings from these fields. So geneticists are also studying about prehistory, but they do not have any training in archaeology, anthropology and linguistics. So when they are summarizing findings from these fields, they are prone to making such basic mistakes and known fallacies. Okay. But, okay, now again notice the word but it is foolhardy to ignore genetics. So abhi yahan tak, is line tak, the author was saying कि उनके पास फॉर्मल ट्रेनिंग नहीं है और इतने कॉन्फ्लिक्टिंग फाइंडिंग्स होते हैं, एंड कॉन्फ्लिक्टिंग फाइंडिंग्स के बाद ही सेइंग दैट द जेनेटिसिस्ट डू नॉट हैव एनी फॉर्मल ट्रेनिंग इन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सब्जेक्ट्स विच आर डोमिनेटेड बाय द स्टडी ऑफ ह्यूमन प्री हिस्ट्री, एंड वो इतनी गलतियाँ कर देते हैं। अब पूरा मीनिंग बदलने वाला है क्योंकि बट आ गया है। बट इट इज़ फूल हार्डी टू इग्नोर द जेनेटिसिस्ट। इतनी गलतियां करते हैं फिर भी उनको इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते। क्यों इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते? नाउ द रीजन विल कम इन द अपकमिंग लाइन्स। वी geneticists may be the barbarians coming late to the study of human past, but it is always a bad idea to ignore the barbarians. Okay, there was a question on why it is always a bad idea. Why is it a bad idea to ignore the barbarians? So we'll mark this so that we know when to refer to this. We geneticists may be the barbarians coming late to the study of human past, but it is always a bad idea to ignore the barbarians. So it is saying that barbarians here is not literally used for the geneticists. It is just a metaphorical use of the term, that we might have started studying the human history, the human past very late, but you cannot ignore us. Why can't you ignore us? We have access to a type of data. हमारे पास ऐसा data है which no one has had before. So okay, so they have access to certain type of data which is not available to anyone else, and we are wielding these data to address previously unapproachable questions about who ancient peoples were. So हमारे पास ऐसा डेटा है और हम उस डेटा को अच्छे से यूज़ कर रहे हैं to answer certain very important questions about the ancient people. Okay, so I hope the meaning of the passage was clear. Now we'll move on to the questions. Why does the author say it is possible to overinterpret physical appearances? So if you remember, in the first paragraph, the author is talking about physical appearances, that India has very diverse physical appearances, and that is because of the genetic mixture. But in the last sentence where the author says that it is possible to overinterpret physical appearances, why? He's introducing two new factors, that the physical appearances are also affected by the environment and diet. So he's introducing two new factors. So our answer should also be somewhere around on these lines. So we'll read it out. We'll read the passages. If you want, I can just go back to the passage and I'll show you. But it is also possible to overinterpret physical appearances, as it is known that appearances can also reflect environment and diet. Okay. Question. Let's read the options. Since people often disguise themselves in public, there is no mention whatsoever of people disguising themselves in public. So this option is eliminated. Next, people often undergo plastic surgery. There is no mention of plastic surgery. So again, B is eliminated. Since physical appearances can be affected by factors such as surroundings and food habits in addition to genetic mixtures. This, according to me, is the perfect answer, because it is also talking about in addition to genetic mixtures and surroundings, which was environment, and food habits, which is basically your diet. So it is including all the three factors which have been talked about in the first passage. So according to me, answer should be C, but we'll not ignore option D. We'll also read it. Since Indians as a group have never mixed with other groups in the past. This is straightforward against, this is directly opposite to what is already mentioned in the first paragraph. So this cannot be the answer. Answer will be C. I hope it is understood why. I have put enough emphasis on why C should be the correct answer, because it talks about genetic mixtures, environment and diet, surroundings and food habits. Okay, so first answer is clear. Let's move on to the second question. Which of the following most accurately describes the result of the first genetic work done in India? So again, I'll give you a basic gist of it. So the first genetic work said the results of it were contradictory. Why were the results contradictory? Because on one hand, it was saying that on the maternal lines, they have been largely confined to the Indian subcontinent, whereas on the paternal lines, they showed closeness to the West Eurasians. If you want, I can go back to the passage and I'll show you. Father to son, suggesting mixture, and unique to the subcontinent. So on Indian maternal lines, they were largely isolated. So that's what the passage is saying. So this should be this is the gist of it. So let's see which is the most close which is the closest to this answer. Which option is the closest to this? Option A, results relating to the maternal line suggested that Indian ancestors had been isolated for a long time, but results relating to the paternal line suggested mixture with the West Eurasians. So this is perfectly giving us what we actually need, the contradictory result that on maternal lines Indian ancestors had been largely isolated for a long time, but paternal line suggested mixture with West Eurasians. So this is the perfect answer, but we'll also see if there is a better option available. Option B, results relating to the paternal line suggested that Indian ancestors had been isolated for a long time. Paternal line pe they had been isolated. Okay, so in the first half only it is incorrect, because on the maternal line they were isolated and not on the paternal lines. So option B is incorrect. Option C, the results were lost in a fire. There is no mention of results being lost in a fire, so option C is also incorrect. Option D, the results showed that Indian historians have not received formal training in archaeology. Okay, so this is very incorrect. This is not even pertaining to the genetic work which was done. It's merely one line which was mentioned in the third paragraph. That too, it was not about Indian historians. It was about Indian the geneticists have not received a formal training. I'll show you the sentence. Wait. Here, that geneticists do not have a formal training in archaeology. So it's not even related to the first genetic work. It's not to the point, and it's also factually incorrect as per the passage. It's not about the historians, it's about the geneticists. So option D is also incorrect. Our answer will be option A. 1.3. So like I've already given you a basic idea of what does the expression to throw up one's hands mean. In the context of the passage, it basically meant to give up because they were so annoyed by the results कि इतने conflicting results आ रहे थे, तो उन्होंने give up कर दिया कि अब हम लोग नहीं study करेंगे इसे. But still, let's just look at the options. Option A, to volunteer for a difficult task. No, it's nowhere related to it कि genetics study करना बहुत difficult task है या नहीं. It wasn't mentioned. Plus, we do not even know from the I'm just explaining the options from the context of the meaning, context of the paragraph. So they are not even volunteering. It was their job. Historians have to study human prehistory, and geneticists have to study the genetics. So option A is incorrect. Option C, to cheer on loudly with vigorous hand waves. So there is nothing like that from the context that we understand. Option B, to conduct deep genetic research. To throw up one's hands in that particular context meant to give up. So option D is suiting the best, and option A, B and C are not at all related. Why am I doing an expression with an elimination method is to simply make you understand that even if you do not know what that particular expression means, you can actually understand its meaning by the context. So it's not necessary that you always have a list prepared of idioms and phrases and you have memorized. And even if you have memorized, there are chances that you might forget. So it's always better to understand the meaning from the context. And from the context, what's the meaning? To give up in annoyance. So question 3 is done. Question 4, in what context does the author say that it is always a bad idea to ignore barbarians? So I'll take you to the line where there was a mention of barbarians, we geneticists. So the word, like I've already informed you, that the word barbarians is used metaphorically and not literally for the geneticists. The word barbarians here is referring to the geneticists, right? And that too metaphorically. And why it is used? Because the geneticists may have come late to the study of human past, and they may not have a formal training in archaeology, anthropology, linguistics, whatever. But it is a bad idea. It is foolhardy. It is a bad idea to ignore the barbarians. Why? Because they have access to a certain type of data which nobody else has, and they are using that data to solve questions about who the ancient peoples were, right? So that is why उनके पास डेटा है, इस वजह से हम उनको इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते, भले ही उनके पास ट्रेनिंग हो नहीं हो, उनके पास डेटा है जो कि बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, that is why. Option A, barbarians often have access to knowledge passed down verbally from one generation to the other, and such knowledge may hold key to fighting modern illnesses. Firstly, there is no mention about modern illnesses in the passage. Second, we are not using the word barbarians literally. It's just a metaphorical use. Then knowledge passed down verbally. Where does the word verbally come? We do not know that there is knowledge is being passed down verbally from one generation to the other. There is no mention of generations or knowledge being passed down verbally. It's only about data that they have access to. And again, no mention of modern illnesses. So it's way beyond the scope of the passage. Option A is incorrect. Geneticists have access to data that others do not, and while they may have started studying human past only recently, it would be foolish to ignore them. So option B perfectly captures the entire gist of what this line says. Why is it a bad idea? Because उनके पास data है जो किसी और के पास नहीं है, और भले ही उन्होंने recently start किया होगा, भले ही उन्होंने late start किया होगा, उनको ignore करना foolish होगा. So option B is perfect. Let's look at the other options too. Barbarians can conduct sneak attacks on cities and other centers of civilization, and so one should always ensure the armed forces are vigilant against them. This is again beyond the scope of the passage, because barbarians again has not been used literally, and no mention of sneak attacks, civilization, armed forces, vigilant. There is nothing like this in the passage. So option C is also incorrect. Option D says anthropologists and linguists can learn a lot from studying barbarian practices, and so they should study them closely to advance their knowledge. Again, there is no mention of anthropologists and linguistics. The passage very briefly mentions anthropology, the study of the training of anthropology, and linguistics, but it is nowhere talking about anthropologists and linguistics in particular. Plus, how they can benefit from studying barbarian practices is also not mentioned in the passage. So again, option D is beyond the scope of the passage. It's nowhere related to the passage. So option D is also incorrect. Answer will be option D. Let's move on to the last question of our passage. Question says, which of the following is true about the sentence enclosed within one? So let's just read the sentence which is enclosed within one from here. We have access to a type of data that no one has had before, and we are wielding these data. Now you might think that these is used for data. So I'm sure you must have data is plural, and that is why these has been used, and the usage of these with data is correct. Then data to address previously unapproachable questions about who ancient peoples were. Okay, let's look at the options now. So option A says there is a grammatical error in the portion of the sentence which reads wielding these data. These should be replaced with this. No, because I've already told you that data is plural and these will be used. So option A is incorrect. And the next option says wielding these data. The word data should be spelled datum here. No, plural, the usage of data is absolutely correct. So option A and B are removed, eliminated. Option C, there is a spelling error in the portion of the sentence which reads who ancient peoples were. The word peoples should be spelled people here. Okay, so I am sure that a lot of you might have marked this as your answer, because it does seem that people is used plural, that people are doing their work, people are watching a video, people are attending classes. But there is another usage of the word peoples, and if you are not aware of the usage of peoples, you might have marked this option. So I'll tell you the difference between people and peoples. So people is generally very commonly used for a group of people. The people are doing whatever, and it's used plural in the plural sense only. But the word peoples with an S here, which is used over here, peoples with an S, is used when you have to use it for people who are belonging to the same community. Let's say Indian peoples or let's say people of the Indus Valley civilization, or whatever, people who have something in common, people who belong to the same community, or the people who come from the same racial background, same ethnic background, or same region. So in this particular paragraph we have been talking about people from India only. The focus has been, if you look at it closely, the people of India. Here it says people of India, then the first genetic work in India, then again it's historians of India. So where completely in the entire passage the focus has been on the people of India. So what is common here in the people? Their region is common. So we are talking about people of India. So here, because they have something in common, we can use the word peoples. Right? So this sentence, the usage of the word peoples is grammatically correct, and hence option C also becomes incorrect because peoples is correct, spelled correctly. So C will not be your answer. Answer will be D. Okay, I hope you find these sessions helpful, and just like we tackled this question number 5th, which was which I think is something very different from what you usually study or read in your textbooks. This was something different, and I hope it helps. Thank you, and we'll be ending with the session.